In this podcast episode, we delve into the profound impact of supportive relationships on creativity and innovation. By examining the roles of friendships, mentorships, and partnerships, we uncover how these connections provide the essential emotional and intellectual encouragement needed for creative thinking. And we talk about the value of supportive relationships, keeping our eyes open for the right type of relationships, and giving support to activities that fuel hope. So join us. Greg and I are on together today as we explore the dynamic ways in which supportive relationships fuel creativity and drive innovation. This podcast is brought to you by DJ Works Media with resources and ideas for you at mid-career or half-time of life. Check out our online courses where we want you to not only start, but finish. Books available in all versions and songs available for immediate download with sheet music and instrumental accompaniment tracks. Our musicals are family-friendly with great music that's memorable and inspiring. Sign up at goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter for weekly updates. Now to our episode. Well, welcome. I'm so happy to have Greg with me today, too. It's always good to have both of us together. And so glad that you are able to be in on this conversation for relationships. And how they fuel creativity. So welcome, Greg. Thanks so much for being with us and with this really a great topic on how we can hopefully fuel some creativity with our relationships.
Right.
So, well, as we start out, we're going to talk about the value of supportive relationships. And because you are here, we have kind of an unusual marriage relationship in that I have someone I can bounce ideas off of. And that was not always the case because you had your thing that you were doing. And now in our morning coffees, we're able to do that quite a bit together.
Well, and two, when you were in music, I had a lot less to offer because I don't know anything about music. But when you shifted to public speaking, that was where, I could obviously be somebody you could bounce things off of.
Right. So, and when I was leading a nonprofit as well, because you had a lot of corporate and leadership experience there. And I was able to bounce some of those things that I was going through. And it was a good sounding board for me. An idea sounding board as well. I
think what we wanted to talk about in this talk was how entrepreneurs can get kind of stuck, and relationships matter because they can either keep you stuck or they can help you get unstuck. And it kind of depends on the feedback you get, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, you can either feel like someone gives you no hope or someone gives you hope.
Or, some people are really good at bringing up the what ifs. Well, what if this happens? What if this happens? What if this happens? And then you get stuck in your roundabout, going through the what ifs. And other people are good at using what ifs as kind of taking what you're thinking, adding to it a little bit and saying, what if we added this and you said it like this, and pretty soon you're off on a great new highway.
Yeah. And this applies to so many areas of life. I mean, It applies to business, but it applies to life decisions too.
Yeah.
I mean, my goodness, if you're thinking of moving or if you're thinking of downscaling or whatever, I mean, there's just things that are popping in my head now, too many ideas. But in fact, I just affirmed you on a phone call that came in this morning, and you were able to ask really good questions. And it wasn't just responding, but asking those questions. And we'll talk about this, about
because a lot of time, the best thing we can do for people is to help facilitate self-discovery. Mm-hmm. And, there's two ways to really think, and that is, introspection, where it's just you in your head, mm-hmm. or those chances where you get to say things out loud and hear what they sound like. And if we can get people to untangle themselves out loud, mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
We help a lot. And that a lot of times it just comes through good questions. And, you can gently steer conversations through the right questions.
Right.
I know the media tries to do that, but they don't always gently do it. A lot of times it's just for aha moments. But we, as supportive cast, excuse me, can really help people move along in their thinking, mm-hmm. by asking the right questions.
Right.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. If you were going to...
I can't quite remember what I was going to say.
This happens. No. But I think the supportive relationships, we talked about some historical examples like Lewis and Clark, and about them working together, and their personalities weren't the same. They were different. In reading about their journey and about their life and their what was entailed in that journey. But at least they had each other. They had and what made it effective, I mean, you can imagine Jefferson tasked them with plotting a trail from the east to the west coast. Mm-hmm. And in the planning process, they could have gone around and around and around and still be going around. Yeah.
And the right friendships help you go from mentally exploring ideas and wondering about stuff. Mm-hmm. And you can imagine Lewis and Clark doing this, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just going, is this possible?
Yeah.
What if we tried this? They could have stayed in that roundabout for a long time.
Yeah.
Somewhere, somebody said, I think we can do this.
Yeah.
And threw out a tentative plan. And then I'm guessing somebody else bounced off that plan and said, well, that could work, especially if we tried, and the synergy starts to happen. And suddenly you go from exploring and pondering to becoming decisive and enthusiastic.
Yes.
And that switch is all based on relationship. Mm. And part of the reason we want to talk about this today is because lots of entrepreneurs, because they don't have the right relationships, get stuck in the pondering and never get to ignite being decisive and enthusiastic. Because once enthusiastic and excitement hit, mm-hmm. suddenly there's hope.
Yes.
And we talk a lot about hope. I came home from the doctors the other day. I've got mild neuropathy, and I was afraid it was growing. Mm-hmm. And and this has been a 2 or 3 year thing, and without realizing, I guess I was getting depressed about it. I was becoming fatalistic.
I knew.
And just assuming that, it wasn't going to get better. Mm-hmm. I'd never heard of it getting better. And my doctor not only said that she thinks she can fix it, but she is absolutely certain. And the thought of my life improving, that little bit of hope, mm-hmm. The mental twist of perspective, mm-hmm. literally changed my outlook on life. And that's a great little example mm-hmm. of, wherever you are in your planning process, getting to the place where the right perspective unleashes your ability to be decisive, mm-hmm. pull a trigger and get excited. because it's fueled by hope. That's where you want to get.
Yeah. I've known so many that are forever in the planning stages.
Right.
Forever.
Yeah.
And
which is why you wrote the book, Get Unstuck.
Yeah. Stuck is not a 4-letter word.
Right.
That was the first book I wrote. And it was like, move on.
And the whole roundabout hero,
Yes,
we know scores of people that just live in a roundabout.
Yeah. Yeah. Going round and round. And really, unless there's some decisive decisions or change or something, it's not going to change.
Yeah. And we're trying to be the people that ask the right questions and tweak their perspective so that they get excited about whatever's next in their life.
Yeah. And you are excellent at those questions. So
are you.
Yeah. And I'm excellent at the doing, though. I follow through and I get real excited. It was fun because I'm just starting a new venture on an affiliate marketing and, whole thing set up. And I'm very excited about it. And I've been excited about things in the past and I've launched them and, a lot of them just fizzle out. They just don't happen. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to launch something else and get excited about something else. And I really do my homework. I've learned how much homework you have to do but not being afraid to move on. And you were one of the people, the few people actually that I really shared in depth with this crazy idea and giving me some really good feedback, but also encouragement just to say, go for it, do the, marketing and the whole thing with everything I'm doing. So, well, and I think that kind of leads us to looking for those right type of relationships and where do we find them?
Right.
And
kind of what we meant here was not all, you don't always get to find the right relationship in your natural relationships.
Yeah, right.
Perhaps your spouse or your parents aren't those type of people that are going to help you get out of a roundabout.
Right, right.
So then what you want to do is talk to peers or friends that are somewhat creative, intuitive, and that you feel comfortable sharing, crazy ideas with. So, or if you don't have any peers or friends, that as a last resort, you go to a professional coach.
Yes.
But that probably should be a last resort.
Yeah.
And probably you should be close to launching. You should be in decisive mode and use a professional as like a last resort. Well, no, the final checkpoint.
Yes.
The final checkpoint. If you're an astronaut, you go through the standard checkpoints, you go through a secondary set of checkpoints. I mean, you want this rocket to work. And maybe you bring in the final inspector, just before you press the button.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, some people stay in coaching forever. And I think coaching is good, or consulting is good to get on the right track. Masterminds are great because that's a group of people that will give you good feedback.
Mastermind is more of a peer group, though.
Yes, it is.
It would
Definitely.
be one of those peer friendship things.
Exactly.
But, finding a good mastermind group is not as easy as one might think.
No.
If you happen to have one, good for you.
Yes.
You'll treasure it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. But having the relationship, we brought up a couple of names when we were talking about this because there's so much emphasis on like heroes, somebody that'll be, but there's a.
Yeah. Okay. So Americans tend to celebrate the hero.
Yeah.
And they forget that the hero always had a support group.
Yes.
Elon Musk probably doesn't have a support group, but those are really, really
different
rare.
Personality. Yeah.
Lewis and Clark had each other. They, they built a team underneath them.
Right. The Wright brothers. I mean, they were together, and
part of being, decisive and being an entrepreneur is you do kind of collect people in your wake, and they enjoy going along on the ride with you.
Right.
But while we celebrate heroes, don't forget to celebrate the people that they bounced ideas off of and helped refine their thinking.
Yes.
And their planning. And a lot of times this weird stuff just happens with your banker. You're trying to get a loan. They don't want to give you a loan. You say, why not? And they give you 3 reasons. And then you go, well, what if this happened? Well, that would change things. So there's this synergy going on, and your banker or your lender is giving you ideas, not intending to be the supportive partner, but that's in fact what they're doing. Yeah. And, if you think about the people that kind of formed the 20th century, the Fords and the Carnegies and the Morgans, they all had those business relationships, and naturally in their biographies that the support group doesn't get written about much,
right?
But it was there. And, and that's kind of what we're talking about here is that, rethink your model of being the lone wolf, the lone soldier on the hill that is somehow holding back the entire, Russian army. You really can't do it alone,
right?
And especially if you find yourself in a roundabout, if you're there, you need somebody to help you become excited about a plan so that you can move from exploring to being decisive.
Yes. And you could also be that person for other people, which is really, really important. I was just listening to the story about bike company, specialty bike company. It was on a podcast, and I'm always into how businesses are built. And but this one, nobody would give him a loan. He was trying to get these specialty bike. He needed funding to get them, to ship them from Europe to the United States. But he finally found one bank that the person at the bank, or main person, said, well, I think I can probably do that if you sign over the deed to, your place that you own, right, and the pink slip and the whole thing. So he actually, it was like a trailer that he had. That's all he had. He was just completely broke, but he signed it over and he ended up paying it all back. But he said the process of getting that loan, they made me fill out my business plan. They made me fill out my cost projection. He said it was one of the best things I've ever had to do.
Exactly.
And because he had to go through that step, and it was so hard, and he still got the loan, but all of the things he had to do, that was an extremely supportive relationship, because he said it helped me build my business. All of a sudden, I knew what financials were. Nobody had ever made me do that.
Right.
So, and then I had read this story about Abigail Adams way back in history with John Adams, her husband. They were all but she was way behind the scene. She did a lot of research and gave them input. Totally, we never hear about her doing that, but she was behind the scene as a supportive cast. So being able to do that,
develop battle plans, right?
Yeah, the whole battle plan. Yeah, very, very intelligent. Mm-hmm. But we don't read about her, any sort of heroes. Right. But anyway, all of that supportive group, we can be that, and that encouragement.
Yeah, if you found yourself successful, you've got a platform in which to help others. And just a little bit of warning. Part of the reason I became good at asking questions is nobody wants my opinion. It's that,
I do know.
So instead of giving my opinion, I just ask questions that perhaps will lead somebody in the right direction. So if you find yourself wanting to be supportive, but nobody wants to hear from you, it's probably because very few people want others' opinions. But they will engage. The more questions you ask, the more they feel like you're interested in them. And so it's kind of a tricky way to get your opinion in. And so if you can engage in a peer-to-peer conversation, even though these people aren't peers, you're a peer, they're down here. If you can treat them as a peer, your questions will lead to a conversation that hopefully will get to the right conclusion. But if we have been successful, becoming a supportive peer is a worthwhile thing to do.
It really
necessary.
Is. It really is. It really is. It kind of reminded me when you were saying that nobody wants to. Well, it's just like our kids.
Oh, for sure.
It's like, no, I got it.
Well, and to be fair, they're grown men.
Yes.
And they've got their own opinions.
Right.
And we need to respect and also pursue those.
Yes.
That they've become interesting people.
Mm-hmm. And we've really seen that happen. It's just, that's part of and we have podcasts on this, watching the journey with having adult kids. It's sometimes it's a challenge to keep that mouth shut, but we watch the journey and pray.
Well, what's fun is they've become interesting people. I'm waiting for the moment that we become interesting.
Yes, we'll see.
Hasn't happened yet. We'll see.
I know some of the listeners now are going, oh, I get it. So, anyway, we wanted to kind of wrap some of this up with maybe some ideas, although we've talked about some of those with the activities and the ideas to fuel hope, and listening for ideas, always listening for ideas. I think, when I talk out my ideas, all of a sudden, I know I sound, to you, especially probably like I'm just rambling on, but I'm thinking, ooh, that's what I meant. Or else you'll ask a question that spurs something else. And that's such a valuable thing to do to we've talked about this before, is marketing is hope. And it gives hope to, being able to verbalize some of those ideas. And because really all of your ideas, usually they have some sort of potential to go somewhere.
Right. And instinctively, if somebody has an idea, they feel like it's meeting a need.
Yeah.
And the trick is to get them to say out loud, what need are you really trying to meet?
Yes.
And, we have this funny thing that I always do with the girl in rural Ohio who has decided that everybody needs peach jam. And she's going to start manufacturing peach jam in her kitchen. Mm-hmm. And, the obvious question is, well, what makes your peach jam different than all the other peach jam? And, inevitably it's made with love. And you start going down the trail. What makes it distinctive? Okay, if it truly is distinctive, how big is the market? What would it cost you to reach that market? You can come up with your own funny news, but it works the same every time. Yeah. Somebody else has decided that Michigan tulips should be shipped out every Christmas, for planting in late winter. So we're going to do a tulip bulb barn. Somebody wants to bring back the fashion of quilting, and that everybody should have a homemade quilt on top of their bed. Yeah. And why? Yeah, I mean, you can use whatever muse you want. Right. Make it as funny as possible. Yes. But whatever questions you ask about the quilting lady should be what you're asking about your idea. Yes. So, you just, and then that's what I do with Deb is I just help her work through. Okay, so which problem are you going to solve with this idea? And to who? And how big of a problem is it? Yeah. Because if it's not a big enough problem, the chances of really, meeting it and the time it would take to fix it. So just remember that the two greatest motivators in a human's life are fear and greed. Yes. And fear is much more powerful than greed. And another way of saying that is pain and fantasy. Okay. So typically our problems want to fix somebody else's pain. I mean, our solutions want to fix somebody else's pain. Yeah, fix it. Somebody's stuck and they can't seem to get out. That's the pain that Debbie's trying to reach and to help them mid-career move out of that into something more fulfilling. Right. the guy that walks onto a Harley lot, he doesn't have any pain. What he has is a fantasy.
Dream. Yes, a dream.
He's got this dream of looking really good.
Really cool.
Right in a Harley. And, those are two different motivators, but you need to figure out what your service or product, which one am I trying to fix? Am I trying to fix a fantasy or am I trying to fix a problem?
Right. It's so funny. You just reminded me of a couple little illustrations here. But one was, I make really, really good apple pies.
Absolutely.
Really good. So I still remember being like, says, oh, you should open up a business. You should
said that?
Oh,
okay. It wasn't me.
It wasn't him. So I said, oh, are you kidding? The time it takes to there's no way I could scale that. I mean, my apple pies are really good. There is no way I could make any money on it. And why would I spend that much time in the kitchen?
Though, what we could try this summer is my homemade vanilla ice cream.
That's
on
amazing.
Top of your Dutch apple pie.
But we are not scaling that.
That would be, sure. That wouldn't scale very well.
It is. That would be good.
But if you work hard, you could get an invitation over to try something.
That's very true. And something else that it reminded me of, because I read this book in high school, 1984.
You were reading in high school?
I had to read in high school.
Oh, you weren't in high school in 1984.
No. I read the book in 1984.
Okay.
But I read the book required when I was in high school.
Right.
I probably read the Cliff Notes, knowing me, just to pass the test. So, but I just kind of went through that again. And there's something in there called the Ministry of Truth. And wait.
What she's saying is she just got through rereading the book,
1984. Okay, that's it. Yeah.
In there.
It's the Ministry of Truth. But the book was actually written in 1949. I mean, it really it was just amazing. But the Ministry of Truth is all about entertainment, education, and fine arts. But they squelch ideas. They squelch the ideas. And do not surround yourself with
because
people.
They're pushing the correct entertainment.
Yeah. And for a creative, there's nothing just totally correct. There's a new song, there's a new book, there's a new idea. But I think your point of, figuring out who is this for? Why am I doing this, first of all? And, can you scale it if it's going to be a business? You need to really think about that.
Yeah, because art, for art's sake, is completely worthwhile.
It's very worthwhile.
We need people, creating, and most of that stuff's going to end up in a garage sale, or just go straight to the dumpster.
Yeah,
but the collaborative culture of creativity. Every now and then, you create something. You go, there may be a mass market for this.
Right.
And that's where it moves from art to a business.
Right. But I like your point about, and this, we probably need to wind this up, but it reminded me, we were just in Iceland not too long ago, but in the winter months, of course, that when it's dark all the time, that is the season that they encourage creativity. There's more authors that come out of Iceland than anywhere in the world, because they are writing.
And I would think independent musicians.
Visual artists, there's a lot going on. It's not just Bjork and some of those.
So it's a wonderful culture that way.
Yeah.
Everybody's willing to be creative, not afraid to be flat on a song. It's just, they're just being creative, and it's wonderful.
And it's an encouragement to do that, which a lot of times we just don't get the encouragement to do that. And we need to surround ourselves at least with the people that will encourage us in some of those endeavors as well. But those are creative relationships. So, well, let's sum this up.
Go ahead.
You want me to do it or you to do it? Well, I like that we talked about the value of the creative relationships and how different they can be in different people's lives.
And that's maybe the most important thing.
Yes.
Just make sure you find supportive relationships.
Yeah.
Wherever it is, and probably remember to do coaching last.
Right.
It's the last check. Don't depend on it.
Yeah, don't depend on it, because that person, if they're it's not just they will support you if they're being paid.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Of course they will. And I do very limited private coaching, but I do some coaching. So it's not like I'm discouraging that totally, because you do need those people alongside.
What we're saying is it has its place.
It has its place.
Don't confuse it.
Don't confuse it with these supportive, creative relationships. And, take up the ideas that fuel that hope in your life, and with the people that you will meet in those endeavors.
And maybe ask yourself, am I in an emotional place where my perspective is decisive and encouraged, or am I constantly just exploring?
Right.
And
right.
That'll help you figure out where you are.
Yeah. And you don't always have to be the hero. You can always be a supportive cast, and different roles. And I think
the point of that too is how important the supportive cast is, and not to over glamorize the hero.
Right. So not everyone who has an amazing business, even speaking business or entertaining business, not everyone is the one on the center stage.
Right.
There's a lot of supportive casts that are needed. So, well, thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Greg, for being with me.
Good to see you guys.
We are on together once a month. And of course, we have a lot of other guests as well. And then I speak a couple times a month. Make sure you follow us. Write us a review. That's always fun. We can use those. And always use more reviews, and get our newsletter. We have an article that comes out every week. goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter. Very easy, very simple. The links are in the show notes as well. So thanks again for joining us, and we'll look forward to being with you again next time. So bye-bye for now. Bye. Thank you for joining us. It is because of our wonderful listeners like you that we keep going strong week after week. We'd love it if you'd share and follow us to not miss a single show, and even write a review. You can also find all of our articles, products, and links at womenathalftime.com.